For the first time in recent history of hate crime jurisprudence in Europe, someone is being indicted for hate crimes against Catholics. To make things more progressive, the criminals are women. Feminist women. And it's in Spain. The same Spain that until 2012-2013 was under a regime colloquially referred to now as the era of gender Stalinism. That is, the era in which women could do no wrong. Let's explore. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Freedom Alternative. I found this nice short article on the Daily Mail about something that even surprised me, and those of you who've been following me for a while now know that I am quite difficult to surprise. Anyway, let's read it and then I'll provide some context. So, title goes, 3 women are accused of hate crimes by prosecutors after carrying a 2-meter plastic vagina through a Spanish town. 3 Spanish women will be hauled in front of a judge for making a mockery of Catholic religious traditions after marching with a 2-meter plastic vagina in the style of the Virgin, according to court documents. The women were protesting during a march organized by the Spanish Union, the General Workers' Confederation, CGT, on May 1, 2014. But a Spanish judge has said they carried a plastic vagina a couple of meters high in the style of the Virgin Mary, and now face charges of crimes against religious sentiment. Now, I won't show you the pictures because that would be against the terms of service, so you can go check out the links yourself if you're really that curious. Anyway, police were called to identify the women from a video of the march and were pictured wearing black lace face veils and carrying rosary beads, according to Europa Press. The veils, known as mantillas, are commonly worn by devout Catholic women during religious celebrations. Other women were seen wearing conical hoods worn by members of religious brotherhoods to celebrate Easter. Hailed as the Santissimo Conio Insumisio, or the Blessed Rebellious Vagina, they reportedly were protesting against homophobia. Feminist groups have routinely staged demonstrations in Spain to protest the country's abortion laws. Miguel Sevillano, head of the CGT in Sevilla, told Europa Press that the women had nothing to do with the union, but added that the women were part of a feminist group. The year before, in Malaga, feminists held a similar procession to mark International Women's Day on March 8. Now, can someone seriously argue, anyone, anywhere, can seriously argue how this is not degenerate behavior on the part of the feminists? Nevertheless, degeneracy may it be, but hate crime? To understand this, one needs a bit of context, which of course our dear English-speaking cathedral media never offers. So let me try and hope I won't forget anything. For starters, there is the common misconception that in Spain abortion is illegal. The actual reality is that that's a complete and utter lie. What is true, however, is that Spain's abortion laws are far stricter than even the most conservative states in the United States. But here's the part that nobody tells to our friends across the pond. With the notable exception of Britain and Sweden, all of Europe has stricter abortion laws than the United States. So for instance, there's Malta, which bans it altogether in all cases. Then there's the severely restricted group, which includes Portugal, Poland, and Ireland. And then there's the large group of countries that allow abortion on demand between 10 weeks and 14 weeks of the gestation period, which includes pretty much most of Europe. And then there's those that allow higher limits, such as the United Kingdom with 24 weeks, Sweden with 16 weeks, and Cyprus with the highest limit at 28 weeks, although the legal status of abortion on demand in Cyprus is highly dubious, so, I don't vouch for the accuracy on the Cyprus data. Again, this is in practicality, not what the actual law says, because for instance in Britain, Abortion in theory is a lot more restricted, whereas in practice every woman is served by claiming that her mental state is in danger, or some other legally dubious but acceptable claim. Strictly for Spain, the limit is 12 weeks, again, just like most of Europe, nothing extremist or oppressive, even by far left European standards. The second aspect of the context that one needs to understand is that Spain hasn't actually been a stable country for the last 8 years, and the governments have rather been divisive and quite hasty. Until 2012, the country was ruled by a de facto Marxist feminist government. And no, this is not an exaggeration at all. Under the Partido Socialista Obrero Español, the Spanish Socialist Workers' Party, things like women's courts of law have been established and an absolutely insane law was rigorously enforced, namely La Ley contra la Violencia de Género, the law against gender violence. To understand, things had gotten so bad that men had been sent to jail because they farted next to their wife. And that was enough to be deemed a gender violence incident by a women's court of law. I wish I were joking. To understand how bad things had gotten, a Spanish feminist was willing to come to my radio show and talk about the insanity. I still take pride in that interview today, which, by the way, is available for patrons. Hint. Anyway, as a result of that, the socialists have suffered the biggest blow imaginable in elections, being effectively reduced to a marginal political party and replaced at all levels with a conservative government which promised more sound economics and at least the suspension of the gender violence law. Well, they did sorta deliver on both promises, but they also came with their own branch of insanity, such as heavily restricting the freedom of speech and assembly by imposing huge fines on any protest, no matter how legitimate, benign, or peaceful, if the protest didn't obtain some bizarre permits that were next to impossible to obtain anyway, if you weren't a large organization. They also came in with these hate crime laws which criminalize even the most innocuous satire, and that is in addition to further eroding privacy rights with people being arrested for the simple reason that they used encryption methods that made government surveillance difficult. And that's not all. In 2015, Spain also enacted a law that amounts, at least to me, to the creation of a genuine police state. Publishing photos of law enforcement can get you a fine of 30,000 euros. In a country crippled by depression, that can sometimes amount to one's annual income for 3 years. Similar treatment is reserved for those who show disrespect for the authorities on social media. No, I'm not joking, and the list goes on and on and on. So, under these circumstances, I will dare to argue that one should be less happy that these degenerate bitches are being prosecuted. Yeah, sure, it's funny to see feminist laws turned against them, but it is completely unfunny when it happens in a country where almost any form of dissent is more or less verboten. To make matters worse, the last local elections held last year brought in an even more extreme political party, the Communist Party, locally named Podemos, or We Can. Now how familiar does that sound? Yes, we can. Anyone? Word goes around that Podemos was financed by the lovely progressive government of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Oh, what a coincidence that we also know someone else who's been friendly with the aforementioned Islamic theocracy recently. But I digress. So, now that you have a full context, not just the short sensational version of the cathedral media, you tell me, is it something to celebrate that the feminists who walked a huge vulva, because that's a vulva, not a vagina, is it something to celebrate that they're being prosecuted? Because, look, here's the deal. Unlike others, I genuinely believe in freedom of expression, including the freedom of contemptible cunts to make stupid protests over completely non-existent issues. Because let's be clear, there is no homophobia in Spain. I mean, for crying out loud, Spain was the third country in the world to legalize gay marriage with around 66% support amongst the populace. And that was in 2005. Also, as proven earlier in this video, there is no abortion issue in Spain unless you're an American-minded far-left femtard who thinks abortion should be allowed at any gestational stage, at any age, without due parental consent, and preferably paid for by the taxpayers. Yes, by that standard, Spain is extremist, oppressive, and sexist. Boo fucking who.
Programs for women and maybe one for men.
Having said that, I regard this recent development as a negative one, not because I give a flying toss about the feminists being persecuted. In fact, I can't help but enjoy a bit of schadenfreude at their expense, but because I put freedom above my feelings and anyone else's feelings. If you think as I do that the actions of these feminists are contemptible and disdainful, there are other avenues to retaliate. Counter-protest, severe mockery of themselves and their beliefs, and boycott of their business, which I understand to mean any business. A feminist comes looking for work at your company, reject her or him outright. A feminist wants to buy stuff from you, refuse. Even with these insane anti-discrimination laws, there's thousands of ways to work around that, and everyone knows it. I'm also the guy who will support things like writing to their employers, though that's rarely effective since these femtards are rarely employed anywhere, but still, whenever it's possible, it should be done. What I will never support, though, is using the government to retaliate, especially when it comes to non-violent opinions and protests. Contemptible as it may be, their protest didn't actually harm anyone. That's the good word from Freedom Alternative. I'm Lucian Belsan. Thank you for watching.